What's up, guys? This is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we're going to be talking about a pretty popular pistol. We are going to be talking about the Sig Sauer M17. Before I do that, I want to mention my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much. Because of your support, we do a monthly giveaway, and we also do some Patreon-only content. The first shots of this video was actually put up on Patreon, so if you want to see that, all you got to do is become a supporter. If you want to become part of the giveaway, all you got to do is become a supporter. Also, I want to mention ammo.com. I leave a link in the description below for 20 bucks off an order of 200 bucks or more. I want to mention my Instagram. I want to get my Instagram numbers up. I'm at about 8,000 right now. I'd like to get to 10 before the end of the summer, so if you follow me on YouTube and you like the content and you want to see some cool stuff early, make sure to slide over to my Instagram and follow me over there also. Now, back to the gun. What is the Sig M17? What is a polymer frame striker-fired 9mm pistol with a 4.7-inch barrel, and it weighs a pretty average 29 ounces, making it on par with size and weight for most other striker-fired pistols. It comes in a pretty cool coyote color. It's got a PVC coating, so it's got a two-tone finish. It looks kind of like a Scar 16. The way that military pistols generally look, for some reason, they just can't quite match the frame to the slide color, but it's cool because it looks cool. So what are you going to do? A very unique part about this pistol, it does have a modular design that allows you to swap in lowers. It allows you to swap lowers without an FFL because it actually has a chassis inside the firearm, and the serialized portion, the firearm, is not actually the frame itself like on a Glock or older pistol like a Sig or a 1911. It's actually the chassis inside, so you can, instead of just getting back straps and things like that, you can actually buy different sizes of grips and put them on there as long as you take out and replace that chassis whenever you remove them. So that's pretty cool. Now, most people accredit this gun actually to do it first. However, I think Steyr has actually been doing it for a little while longer. Oh yeah, and it also happens to be the civilian version of the Army's new pistol. If you haven't heard, the Army decided to adopt a new sidearm to replace the M9, which has been in service since 1985, so it's kind of a big deal. Along with that, it comes with two 17-round magazines, night sights, ambidextrous controls, and a manual safety. So what would you use a gun like the M17 for? Well, first, it was designed for military use. It was designed to be a duty sidearm. So a duty gun like a military or police sidearm would be a pretty good choice, considering that's what it's designed for, and that's the appropriate size as well. With that almost 5-inch barrel, it's got a pretty decent sight radius, and it's got a pretty good size for a standard sidearm. It also would be a great choice for home defense as well. If it works good for a military application, it usually works pretty good inside the home. As long as you know what you're doing with it, it should work absolutely fine. It is a little bit big for carry, even though it is kind of light. Polymer frame pistols tend to be around 25 to 30 ounces, which is a pretty reasonable carry weight, and if you get a comfortable holster, you should be fine. Now let's talk about reliability. This gun was very reliable in my hands. It has seen a couple of issues throughout its development. However, the gun that I possess in front of you today did 1,000 rounds with absolutely no failures whatsoever. As you can see here, I also have not cleaned the gun, and I have lubed it. I lubed it at about 500 rounds, and I lubed it right when I got it, but I did not clean it through the entire process. So that's pretty impressive. I like when a gun does 1,000 rounds with zero failures. Some guns do it, some guns don't. I was also shooting, I think, American Eagle 115 grain for the vast majority of that. That is a very common ammo that I use for testing, and I really like that ammo because it's cheap and it's still fairly quality, and it's kind of commonplace for what most people will be using for their civilian guns when they actually buy these. I know this is a military pistol, but I review this for civilians because, let's be honest, the military probably shouldn't be listening to me. They should probably be doing their own testing. Now, durability-wise, how durable is your M17 going to be? Well, the military actually seems to be having some issues with theirs. First off was the pretty famous drop test problems that they were having, where the guns were firing as they were dropped, and then Sig tried to do some modifications to their gun to fix that issue, and then trigger problems came from that. There was triggers breaking, packs breaking. There were some DoD reports about that, and what I would have to assume that is just, break-in problems. It really is. Every gun, when it comes out, every new major design, when it starts to get mass distributed, it really has a couple of problems here or there. I mean, look at the Glock Gen 4s, for example. They had problems and they overcame them very quickly. Sig is a very large company and a fairly reputable company. I wouldn't say it's the most reputable out there. I would have 10 years ago. But Sig's had some problems, but for the most part, they fixed their issues, and I think it won't be too long, if they haven't already, where they iron out all of those issues with this pistol. And as I said, mine hasn't experienced those. Now, I haven't loaded this up and thrown it on the concrete a bunch of times to see if I shoot myself in the butthole, but I don't think I would have that issue. I think Sig is going to iron that out. Now we'll get into accuracy. Is the M17 accurate? And I would say it absolutely is. I actually don't love Sig pistols for the way they feel, but they always are very accurate. Now the Sig P226 is probably my favorite Sig Sauer, and I am extremely accurate with that pistol, and it's really no different with this gun, even though this is a striker fired over a double single action. It has a similar feel, and the trigger, the striker fired trigger on this gun is very impressive in my opinion. I've always been a fan of the 320 triggers. It's got a pretty decent break, very crisp. It's got a pretty clean wall to it, and it's very short also. As you can see here, there isn't much over travel. And it breaks with about 5 pounds, I would say. Now, Glock advertises 5 pounds, but this is a significantly better trigger than what you would get in a standard Glock, even the new Gen 5s. And the reset on the trigger is pretty positive and pretty quick as well, allowing you to be pretty quick on the trigger, which I do really like. The Sig P320 trigger, I see nothing wrong with it, and I honestly, if I was going to keep this gun forever, I would not replace this trigger. It's a pretty well done trigger. Now the sights is where we get a little more interesting. The sights are very accurate. It's got a pretty decent sight radius to it. Let me line these up on the camera here. And as you can see, they are night sights, so the pistol does come with night sights. And it's kind of a weird sight picture because you can see there the ears on the back of the rear sight go all the way to the edge of the pistol. Now, I wonder if they did that for reliability, so the sights were absolutely bomb-proof. And it does work very well. However, it's kind of a weird sight picture to get used to, and it does obscure your vision of the target quite a bit. You know, if you could see the outsides of the target with the outsides of your sights a little bit, when sights are a little bit thinner, it's a little bit easier to engage quickly. And I actually believe, even though these are an increase in probably durability with the rear sight, I actually don't like these that much. And if I was, again, going to keep this pistol forever, I would probably try to see about replacing the sights if it were a carry gun. However, this gun, to me, would be more of a, you know, collector's item because it's the military's new pistol. And in that case, I probably wouldn't want to change anything because they're not really that bad. And as you can see in the footage, I can shoot just fine with them. Some things are just a personal preference for me. Now, the cool thing about the rear sight is that not only does it come with night sights, which is a good bargain, but it also has a plate here for a red dot. Now, I believe it's the Leopold Delta Point, and that's pretty cool. I think that eventually in the future, almost all handguns are probably going to come with red dot mounts on them, since red dots are really starting to get popular in the handgun world, and they should, because they are more accurate than iron sights. For the most part, it's one point of aim. It's easier to hit a person while moving, or a thing while moving, whatever you're shooting at. You never know. You could be taking aim at a mean old rooster. Roosters are vicious in this part of the country, so I would totally understand. Sometimes the biggest dangers are not humans. So overall, the accuracy of the M17, the Sig P320 M17, is very, very good. For a striker-fired pistol, it's one of the most accurate that I've shot. I was actually hitting the dueling tree at I was actually hitting the Texas Star at about 50 yards the other day with this gun, and I was surprised at how decent it was, even though I was shooting in like 20, 30 mile an hour wind. The rounds just really do go where you point it, and that is pretty respectable. Wind's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Holy shit.
30 mile an hour winds. Yeah.
Oh, Iowa.
Oh, and right as I start shooting at 50 yards.
pretty good though.
Two ain't bad. 50 yards, 6-inch plate, moving.
Yeah.
That ain't too bad.
With this crazy wind.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get into shootability, which is a little bit different than accuracy. That's trying to put that accuracy at speed, and that is not so good, in my opinion. Part of that has to do with the ergonomics of SIGs as they are, and the unnecessarily high bore axis. Now, there's still a couple of people out there who don't believe bore axis is a thing, and I understand that. You believe whatever you want to believe. There's people out there who drink Kool-Aid en masse, and they die in South America, so I understand there's going to be some weirdos out there, but the reality is the more weight you put up on top of the pistol and the lower you put your grip, the more little wah-cha action you're going to get here. Try to dumb it down a little bit. So the more weight you have up here, the more reciprocating mass that hits back here, the more likely your pistol is to want to jump up. And the higher you are up on that gun, you can control it better. SIG puts a very heavy slide on a fairly light frame. You can definitely tell that this pistol is front and top heavy. It feels like, I don't know, it just feels unbalanced to me for some reason, because the grip is really light and the slide is really heavy and you're really low down on the gun. And can you shoot it fast? You absolutely can. You can't shoot it as fast as some other pistols, for example like a Glock 34. You can shoot a Glock 34 faster. As you can see here, the bore axis on the 34 is significantly lower if you match it up with grip to grip there. And that helps a little bit with sight acquisition, but it really helps with recoil control and the speed of the action of the gun. So this gun feels like a little bit of a chunker. Like every time it comes back, it feels like it's sliding forward and sliding rear. It kind of feels like a big bore 1911 a little bit, where you have a lot of that slide coming up and a lot of that slide coming back. Can that be overcome with good shooting? It absolutely can. Would I feel confident I could use this in a defensive situation as a duty pistol? I absolutely could. Would I choose this as a competition pistol where I was going to shoot multiple strings, multiple magazines all the time? Probably not. I feel like there are better options out there.
Now we'll bring her up to about 10 yards or so, and we'll see how fast we can go.
You're going so fast. I can barely focus.
Oh, my bad. So as long as I remember to hang right a little bit, seems to be working out.
We get an ergonomics really quick. Aside from the bore axis and how low the grip is, because the reason why I say it's unnecessarily high is because on the 226, for example, or like a CZ Shadow or something like that, where you have a lot of the internal mechanics back here and you happen to have a hammer back here, this is a striker-fired pistol. So if this is a striker-fired pistol and this is a striker-fired pistol, there's no reason why it can't be as low as this, aside from patent issues. But there's the M&P out there, there's the Arsenal, there's all kinds of pistols that can do a striker-fired design that are much lower than this. Other than the bore axis, the grip is pretty exceptional. I heard a lot of people complain that there's not a lot of texture up here. I agree with that. I think it should be up there, but the texture that is there, I do like. I do like the texture on the SIG. It's not as aggressive as the M&P, but it's certainly better than some other guns, like let's say the Gen 4, Gen 5 Glocks, for example. I would take this texture over that. If it covered the entire grip, not the backstrap here, but this portion of the grip where your thumbs sit, I would be totally comfortable with this grip. I like the undercut. The undercut they did a really good job on. Almost every company but Glock seems to be doing that right these days, with the P10C and the FN both doing these really well. A lot of the new pistols, especially the modular pistols, have done a really good job with the undercut so you don't get the Glock knuckle that you'd get on a Glock or even an older CZ75. The magazine release works really well, and the magazine ejection is extremely positive. 17-round magazines is pretty standard capacity for a sidearm, and I know you can get base plates, which I would definitely do, because the grip just kind of looks a little weird with the longer slide for some reason, at least for me. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it's because it doesn't match up with the dust cover here, but I would definitely get some base plates. I might even do a mag well on this gun if I would keep this, because why not? If it's a duty gun, it's going to be on an outside the waistband holster of some type, maybe even a drop link holster so the magazine well is not going to affect you at all. Super lightweight magazine magazine wells these days, so I'd probably do some +2 base plates and a mag well if this were going to be my gun that I would keep forever. I might keep it. It's hard to say. I did purchase this gun myself, and a lot of times I don't keep guns that I review, but sometimes like collector's items like this, especially guns that I can compare to other guns for really cool versus videos, I do keep for quite a while. Now, the manual safety is not perfect, for sure, but it's definitely going to be better than something like Shield or something like the Ruger Security 9 or something like that. It is easy to manipulate as you pull it out of the holster. Now, I'm not as against manual safeties as some other reviewers on YouTube. I don't mind them at all. I like the 1911. I like the CZ75, two of the pistols I kind of cut my teeth on shooting, so I got used to them at a very early age, and it doesn't affect me at all to draw a pistol and drop a safety at the same time, as long as it's a good engineered safety. Now, this one is not the best, but it's certainly not the worst either. I would actually probably prefer if this was either a better one, like a 1911 type safety, as you can see there. Whereas you can see it's a big paddle, it feels good, it feels like your thumb's supposed to be resting there. The Sig doesn't feel that way. And if you're going to have a manual safety, I think it should be something that you do ride. That way you automatically press that safety down when you pull the gun out, and there's no afterthought about it. However, again, it's okay. The slide release is actually a pretty interesting design. Now, it looks like it would be hard to hit, and it is a little bit harder to hit than something like a Glock, but that's actually a good thing. So you don't accidentally, inadvertently, I should say, press the thumb or the slide rest down, and you don't get slide lock on your last shot fired. So I do like that. I had no issues with slide lock, and I had no issues hitting it when I wanted to hit it. Most people these days, when they're hitting a slide lock, unless you're going up over, which you totally can do because there's enough slide for that. But if you're going to hit a slide lock, I do like to hit the slide release with my support thumb if possible. I learned that actually from a Larry Vickers video, and I've been using it ever since, and I really do like it. It's more consistent than hitting it with your firing side thumb. The takedown lever is pretty nice. Takedown's pretty easy as well. It's got, in my opinion, a better takedown lever than the Glock does. I compare it to the Glock a lot because the Glock 19X was also introduced into the trials, and there's a lot of debate on which pistol is better. The Army did choose this pistol. However, you can't really say because the Army chose it, it is the better pistol, simply because they didn't do a lot of trials on it, and they chose the Sig because it was significantly cheaper. And the magazines and everything Sig did to get the contract, they did a great job. I mean, it's a fine pistol, but I'd have to do a lot more comparison between the two guns before I decided which one was the better gun for myself, but the military obviously thought the Sig was good enough, and it was cheaper, so why not? But the takedown lever on the Sig is definitely superior. And if you want a quick comparison with the Glock, the trigger is also superior. However, the shootability of the 19X, I feel like, shoots a little bit better. I don't have a 19X, but I do have a Glock 45, which is the same thing in black. What are you gonna do? The color is really cool. I said it didn't match earlier, and it doesn't, but I actually like that. Some people complained about that because they can't get the texture just right. This is more of a desert tan, whereas this is more of a coyote brown, and I like the two-tone. That's one of the things I like about the Scar rifles, is because they look a little bit mismatched, but they look like they're very tactical because of that, and sometimes I dig that, honestly. I like the trigger guard, the front here. I like that it has a full pick rail. I like that the slide serrations on the front are more than functional. If you want to do the cool guy press checks, you can totally do it from here. You can do it from here. You can do it any way that you want to. You can even run them off your belt if you want to, because it's got the cool little the Spec Ops notch here that you can use if you choose to. It even has the magazines are indented here. There's a little cut in each side of the magazine that you can strip the magazines if you want to, if you get sand or dirt into them, which is something that does happen if you are rolling around in the dirt and the mud. So that was a good addition, much better than the Gen 5 design of the Glock 19, where it kind of gets in the way of your pinky. These are not a problem at all. I have fairly large hands, and as you can see, that it doesn't affect me in my grip at all. So well done there. One thing I don't like about the pistol is the barrel fitment on the slide seems a bit strange. As you can see there, no, calm down. I can't shoot you through the internet, so don't worry about it. But the barrel fitment, as you can see here, is a little bit strange. You can tell it's not machined very well. Now, that didn't affect accuracy at all. Could it? I mean, maybe it could. If you were resting your pistol on something, let's say a barricade or something like that, where you're trying to make a shot. However, it wasn't a problem for me, and most of the time, most people aren't shooting past 50 yards with a handgun anyway, so it shouldn't be an issue. However, it does look a little bit strange, and maybe one day could cause an accuracy or a reliability issue, but it hasn't thus far. It has the full-length guide rod, which I can take or leave. It doesn't matter much to me, but there are people in camps on both sides, so it has that if you want it. Overall, the pistol is somewhere between $600 and $700. When I got this pistol, I paid about $700 for it. Overall, I think that the gun is worth it. I think for the upgrades that you get, if you're a Sig fan and you like the way it feels and you like the way the grip feels, it's a perfectly good firearm. It has a great trigger, pretty good sights. It has the cool factor of being chosen by the military. It's got a cool two-tone finish there. It has night sights. It has 2 magazines. The grip's pretty decent. The safety works well if you like that kind of thing, and if you don't like that kind of thing, you can get just a standard 320, not a big deal. So with the accessories, with the cool factor, with the collectability, I think it's more than worth $650 to $700. So overall, I got to give it a 9 out of 10. The only thing I would knock it on is that damn board axis, and that's more of a personal preference. For most people, it doesn't bother them. And the chunky slide versus the lightweight frame. I'm a big fan of it being the opposite. I like when a slide is light and a frame is slightly heavier. Makes the shootability of the gun work a little bit better, but overall, an excellent firearm. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.